Preparing your proposal. Guidance for principal investigators. This presentation is intended for principal investigators, co-investigators, and any researchers or staff that desire to understand the pre-award process for sponsored research and other sponsored activities. Let us know when you select a funding opportunity, and we will get started by reviewing the sponsor's requirements, assisting you to prepare your budget, and preparing suggested next steps for your submission. SRS has proposal submission guidelines designed to provide you with the best customer service in the preparation and submission of your proposal. Initial contact with SRS. Researchers are asked to contact SRS pre-award staff with their intent to submit a proposal a minimum of 3 weeks prior to the sponsor deadline date. SRS adds the most value to the proposal submission process when sufficient time is available to prepare SRS-generated portions of the proposal and to conduct a thorough quality review of all components of the proposal. Preparation of the administrative portions of the proposal. SRS requests the following documents when applicable 5 business days in advance of the sponsor deadline: the budget and budget justification, draft abstract or statement of work to use for routing to obtain system member approval, any relevant approved waivers, subcontract documents, file sketch, current and pending support, data management plan, and any facilities and equipment plan. For the technical portions of the proposal, all technical portions of the proposal should be submitted to SRS in final format no later than 1 business day prior to the sponsor deadline. SRS submission time is 5 p.m. Central Standard Time unless an earlier time is specified by the sponsor. Proposals in final format received at SRS by the timeline outlined in the submission guidance will receive a complete and thorough quality review. For proposals completed and submitted to SRS within this time frame, SRS will work with the PI to make any necessary changes to ensure that the proposal is administratively compliant. It is easy to find your SRS proposal contact. Go to srs.tamu.edu/contacts and enter your department into the search box. You'll find a list of the 3 primary SRS contacts for your department: the proposal administrator, project administrator, and contract negotiator. The proposal administrator is your go-to person for getting started on your proposal. Your proposal administrator may ask you for some information about your proposal and the funding opportunity. For instance, who is the sponsor of the funding opportunity? Or what is the deadline for your proposal? If you have information about key personnel involved in the project or the expected cost items for your budget, this will also be useful for your proposal administrator to know. If you don't have all this information, that's okay. Our team is trained to work with you to track down the details we need to help you assemble and submit your proposal on time. Review the solicitation for key information. The due date, of course. It's critical to know the date when the proposal is due to be submitted to the sponsor. This will determine whether you have sufficient time to prepare and submit a competitive proposal. Eligibility. This includes the eligibility of particular types of applicant organizations, any factors affecting the eligibility of the principal investigator or project director, and any criteria that makes particular projects ineligible. Limitations on the number of submissions. Many funding agencies issue requests for proposals that limit the number of applications they will accept from an institution. The manner in which sponsors limit applications vary, but usually consist of one or more of the following: limiting the number of proposals which may be submitted, limiting the type of institutions that can apply, and or limiting the PIs by stage of career. If you desire to respond to a limited submission funding opportunity, go through the TAMU VPR limited submission process to determine if you are selected to submit. Budget limitations. Is there a maximum amount that can be requested? Do they provide the average amount of recent awards? Cost sharing or matching is that portion of project costs not reimbursed by the sponsor. Cost sharing requirements should be stipulated in the sponsor's guidelines. Generally, Texas A&M University system policy is to only provide cost share if it's a requirement of the funding opportunity. If your project requires cost sharing, discuss early on with your proposal administrator. It is the PI's responsibility to locate sources for cost sharing. Review criteria. Knowing the review criteria is essential in crafting your proposal. Proposal document requirements. It's important to follow the guidelines and include all required documents. Pay attention to the formatting and page limitations, and understand the submission process. Your proposal administrator will create a new proposal number in Maestro and enter the basic information regarding your proposal. Send your SRS proposal administrator an email with your project requirements to prepare the budget. Your SRS proposal administrator will prepare the budget based on inputs provided by the principal investigator. SRS uses an Excel spreadsheet that has built-in formulas to calculate escalation, fringe benefits, tuition, and indirect cost. Revisions will be made until the PI is comfortable with the total and the individual items. Direct costs are costs which can be identified specifically with a particular sponsored project, or that can be directly assigned to such activities readily with a high degree of accuracy. Facilities and administrative costs, known as indirect costs, are costs that are incurred for common or joint objectives, and therefore cannot be identified readily and specifically with a sponsored project. Some common items of direct costs can include, but are not limited to, the following: salaries and wages, fringe benefits, equipment, materials and supplies, travel, independent consultants, subrecipients, vendors. Other costs such as publications, animals, human subjects, and tuition. Personnel costs. Your proposal administrator will use actual salaries for personnel named on the proposal. For unnamed graduate students and postdocs, standard amounts based on colleges and departments will be used. Some questions to ask: who needs to be on the project? What will they be doing? And how much effort is required? For PhD students on a GAT, GAL, or GAR assistantship, there is a university-wide mandate requiring tuition and fees be covered by your program or alternate sources of funding. For sponsored research projects, SRS budgets tuitions and fee accordingly. The amounts are prorated based on the effort being budgeted on the project. The maximum a PhD student can work is 50% effort. Thus, for 50% effort, 100% of the tuition and fees are budgeted. Equipment is defined in Uniform Guidance as an item of property having a cost of $5,000 or more and a useful life of more than 1 year. Note this amount goes to $10,000 the next time the Texas A&M University indirect rate agreement is negotiated. You want to make sure and check the funding opportunity announcement to determine if purchases of equipment is allowed. You may need to obtain vendor quotes or documentation to support large purchases of equipment. Be sure to include the following when applicable: installation costs, shipping costs, any duties or U.S. custom fees if purchased outside the U.S. Fabrication. If individual components will be purchased to fabricate a piece of equipment, be sure and let your department business person know so that the correct object class code can be assigned to the components. If your project will need to have a consultant, contractor, or subrecipient, your SRS proposal administrator can provide guidance to ensure that the correct determination is made. What the entity will be doing is more important in making the determination than the type of entity. When Texas A&M University is the lead institution and is collaborating with another institution that is carrying out a portion of the statement of work, that institution is considered to be a subaward. Texas A&M will issue a subaward document to the subawardee to provide their portion of the funding to them. Subawards should be disclosed in the technical section of the proposal to show a clear delineation of the work to be performed by each organization. The total amount for proposed subawards should appear under other direct costs in the master budget for the project. Travel is allowable as a direct cost when such travel will provide a direct benefit to the project. Listed are a few of the reasons that travel might benefit the project. Attend a conference to disseminate research results. Meeting with sponsor, meeting with collaborators. Some sponsors will require detailed travel information to be provided. Information such as the location and purpose of the trip, number of travelers, number of days of travel. Your proposal administrator will work up estimates of costs for the transportation, lodging, and food. When the government provides a grant to a university for a research project, a portion of the funds are distributed directly to the research team. This direct cost portion supports researcher salaries, graduate students, equipment, and supplies. Another portion covers the necessary research infrastructure and operating expenses that the university provides to support the research. These indirect costs, sometimes called facilities and administrative costs, are payments the federal agencies provide to institutions above the direct costs of a specific research project in order to offset a portion of the costs associated with the infrastructure necessary to do the research work. In other words, F&A reimbursements help support the infrastructure costs that the institutions incur as a result of conducting the research. Example of items paid by indirect costs include the following: lights, water supply, maintenance of buildings, internet connections, university administrative personnel, library, and office supplies. The indirect rate, or F&A rate, is applied on what is called Modified Total Direct Cost, MTDC, which consists of salary and wages, fringe benefits, material and supplies, services, travel, and subgrants and subcontracts up to the first $25,000 of each subgrant or subcontract. Certain items are excluded from Modified Total Direct Cost. When calculating the F&A rate and when building your proposal budget, the items of equipment costing $5,000 or more, capital expenditures, charges for patient care, rental cost of all site facilities, tuition remission, scholarships and fellowship, participant support costs, and the portion of each subgrant in excess of $25,000 are excluded from Modified Total Direct Cost. In other words, F&A or indirect costs are not charged on these items in your project budget. Most sponsors will require a budget justification as part of the proposal. The principal investigator is responsible for preparing the budget justification, as they are the person who can best delineate how the various costs are necessary for the success of the project. The PI is responsible for preparing the technical documents and any required non-administrative and non-budget documents. Your SRS proposal administrator will prepare the budget in the correct format and any administrative documents. Cayuse Proposals is a software tool that is designed for administrators and/or researchers to use for the preparation of proposals. This is used for federal grants.gov submissions. Your proposal administrator will upload documents in the Cayuse. Principal investigators also have the option of uploading their documents. They can access Cayuse via the Researcher Dashboard and Maestro. Cayuse has error checking capabilities, and at any time the user is able to see if there are any errors or missing parts in the proposal prior to submission. Thus, this interface is more user-friendly than preparing the proposal in grants.gov. The proposal administrator will enter the proposal information into the Maestro system, where it will route for review and approval to appropriate stakeholders. The principal investigator will receive a notification to go into Maestro and complete several items, including financial conflict of interest, compliance, reporting codes, and keywords. See the video, How to Approve a Proposal in Maestro, for detailed information. After review and approval, the SRS Proposal Administrator submits the proposal to the sponsor and tracks the successful receipt of the proposal to the sponsor. The Proposal Administrator uploads a copy of the submitted proposal in Maestro. This can be reviewed by the Principal Investigator and other senior personnel who are listed on the proposal and entered into Maestro. The review of proposals submitted to federal agencies can take 9 to 12 months until a funding decision is made. Alert your proposal administrator if you receive requests from the sponsor for additional information or justifications. Hopefully your proposal will be awarded, but do not be discouraged if it is not funded. This is a very competitive process, and on average with federal sponsors, only about 20% of the proposals submitted will be awarded. If you receive a notice of award, immediately forward that notice to SRS at awards@tamu.edu to be logged in. If you want to learn more about what happens when an award is received and how to manage your project, see the applicable SRS video. Hopefully this course has better prepared you as a principal investigator to know what to expect when preparing and submitting a proposal through Texas A&M University. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. We look forward to hearing from you soon and helping you submit a winning proposal.